us. And we continue to affirm help in our youth ed department. Okay, so Easter's coming, and I have some bunny jokes, some more bunny jokes for us, I think. What do you get if you cross a frog with a rabbit? A bunny ribbit. How do you know a rabbit's in a good mood? He's happy. Yeah. What happened when the Easter bunny met the rabbit of his dreams? They lived happily ever after. Yeah. All right. So some joy to start our day. All right. So as we begin, we're in our series, Easter series, Doorways to God Consciousness, and today we're talking about the assimilation that takes place in the tomb experience. But before we get directly into that, I want to remind us that there's no record that Jesus ever said to the sick who came to him that continued suffering would develop their faith and strengthen them. He didn't say to the leper, your disease is the result of wrong thinking, and I can't heal you because then you'll just continue thinking wrong thoughts and reinvigorate the disease. He only said, in essence, will you be made clean? Then be made clean. He didn't say to anyone who came to him for deliverance from suffering, yes, I'll heal you, but that healing won't happen for several months, maybe even several years, so that we can build your faith, right? He just healed them. Nor did he say to anyone, it's true that I heal a lot of people, but oops, sorry, it's not God's will for you. He didn't let people go hungry, saying they should have planned ahead and brought food, did he? When Peter lacked money to pay the tax collector, he didn't say, Peter, 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 God is divine substance and abundance, not dollars. He provided, he created a miracle of provision and supply. And when the widow followed the funeral bier of her dead son, Jesus didn't comfort her with platitudes. She wanted her son back, and he gave her what she wanted. Jesus came to show us the universal Christ consciousness, which he called Father, that divine essence that is omnipresent, omniactive, omniscient, all-knowing, all-powerful in every way. He taught, would you go to the first slide, Jesse. He taught mastery over every seeming negative can be achieved by coming into living and vital connection with the Father. This is it, that oneness with God. Mastery over every negative is achieved by coming into vital connection with the Christ Spirit within you, the God self of you. That's why we're developing in this series a greater awareness of the God consciousness. He proved over and over that God is a very present help, all-powerful and all-knowing. He taught that the kingdom of heaven is at hand, only our eyes are sometimes so fixed on appearances that we just don't see it. Some have argued that Jesus meant that all of this glory and all of this good and all of this possibility would happen in an afterlife. But the people who came to him and sat at his feet and moved around him didn't think about an afterlife. They wanted healing now. They wanted money and provision now. They wanted food now. They wanted relief from suffering now. And the truth is, Jesus gave them physical health for sickness, gave life where there had been death, gave power and courage where weakness and fear existed. He gave joy for sorrow. All of the conditions in which under the human heart suffers, he changed for the better. He changed for the better for the mere asking. And he did not have to be begged for weeks or months in order to change those conditions. And the same is true for us. How? How do we change those conditions of healing, life, illness, depression, suffering, bankruptcy, divorce, all of the things that happen in the human condition? How do we do that? By coming into vital connection with the Christ Spirit, vital living immersion of the self of you, the human self of you, into the divine. Jesus said it, Father, I thank you that you hear me and that you hear me always, which brings us to our fourth doorway of God consciousness, which is assimilation. Assimilation, becoming one with. In the Easter series, I've asked you to choose something that you want to rise above, that you want to resurrect in your life. that you want to improve or ramp up or expand your consciousness, or just be more loving, be more your most authentic self in some way. And we began at the beginning with Jesus cleansing the temple in bold and dramatic ways. Sometimes when we want to make a change in our life, we have to do it in bold and dramatic ways to drive out the negativities, saying no more business as usual, right? And that's the cleansing. That's the first step, is release. And then we looked at, we affirmed, I rise up, I give up so I can rise up. And then we looked at awakening. I awakened the life force within me. When he called Lazarus out of the tomb, bold and dramatic demonstrations of how the power of the Christ Spirit has the ability to resurrect life in us, to call forth life in us. And we said, what was our affirmation? I awaken the life force within me. Last week we looked at the Garden of Gethsemane, that very, again, dramatic teaching of surrender, surrendering our personal agenda for divine will. And our affirmation was, I release all that is not the highest expression of God within me. Not my will, but thine be done. And Mark Berry shared with me after the service, he said he has a little add-on to that. Not my will, but thine be done, until my will is one with wait, how does it go? What?
My will and thine be one.
Yeah, not my will, but thine be done, until my will and thine be one. Isn't that nice? And that's what we're talking about today in assimilation. And so today in that assimilation, our affirmation is, I am one with, that's the great I am, the Christ Spirit of you. I am one with, you fill in the blank. Whatever you're rising up to in consciousness, in your spirit, is it love? Is it faith? Is it courage? Is it strength? Is it forgiveness? Because we released all the negatives. We struck up the stirring of the life force within us. We've surrendered now to that all-powerful presence, and now we're beginning to assimilate more and more of the God self of us in whatever spiritual attribute you want to choose. I am one with. Assimilation in the Easter story takes place in the tomb. In the symbolic 3 days, the symbolic 3 days, it's a time of deep transformation where we're closed away. Rocco Errico, in his book, Let There Be Light, says, we've made darkness, aloneness, represent evil and disaster and sorrow and distress, ignorance, blindness, loneliness, superstition. Blackness and darkness represent far more than negative ideas, he said. Darkness holds many hidden wonders. In the darkness of the womb, human life is conceived and nurtured. I can't. I'm thinking about in vitro fertilization and human life in the petri dish. But anyway, in the darkness of the womb, human life is conceived and nurtured. In the darkness of the soil, what happens? Seeds germinate, don't they? And in the darkness of the mind, where we can't see, in the invisible self of us, ideas are born, beautiful ideas, inspiring ideas. Darkness is a time of incubation and rest and secret rendezvous with invisible powers and unseen realities. And you come into that tomb and you unravel yourself and you remove the binding cloth, the grave cloth that's on you. You let go, you come out of the frenetic pace, you take the binding off your soul. I've got them all here, hold on. You unravel yourself. You take the grave cloth off your soul. You unwrap who and what you've been. You come out of the frenetic pace and you melt into the highest potential of the Christ self within you. All of this takes place in this closed away, the silence of your being. The silence of your being. The universal Christ consciousness is the spirit in you which knows neither depression nor defeat. It's that in you which is not bound by habit or by negativities or limitation of any kind. The Christ spirit in you is that which is always strong, always an overcomer. And you put yourself in a place where I don't want to say you meet it face to face, where you're immersed in it. where your mind is one with divine mind. And that takes that, and then that assimilation of I am one with love, I am one with faith, I am one with courage, begins to ramp up in you in this whole Easter series of release, awaken, surrender, and now assimilate. In the tomb, all final barriers between the personal you and the Christ self of you are dissolved. And there's a melding into oneness. I am one with the God self of me. I am one with the Christ Spirit. And all things are possible in that moment. All things are possible in that moment. But it's symbolic in the story, 3 days, that there's a time of transformation. I don't think we go from crucifixion to resurrection, just bloop, you know, you've crucified by something in your life, a divorce that's been terrible, a bankruptcy that's been terrible, and all of a sudden you're resurrected. There's a time of transformation, of moving ourselves forward in consciousness. I think one of the greatest comeback stories that I've known about and touched lightly was Bishop Carlton Pearson. He passed this past year, but he was friends with my music director in Nashville, and so I kind of was on the edge, you know, those 6 degrees of separation, on the edge of his life. And he was originally, he was the minister at All Souls Church in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which was a Unitarian Universalist church, known for its inclusivity, and they welcomed Carlton Pearson as minister because he was ostracized by his own church for declaring that all people go to heaven, that all people are saved, that all people are unique and wonderful instruments of spirit. He rose up from a grassroots Pentecostal tent revivals to presidential prayer partner. He used to fly on planes to the White House to pray with the president. He attended Oral Roberts University, and Oral Roberts anointed him as a golden child, even embracing him as his son. And he built a church in Tulsa, Oklahoma that had an average Sunday attendance of 6,000 with an average Sunday offering of 60,000. Let me repeat that. With an We're close. Vision. My mind and God's mind. We're one with divine mind. He counted his peers, Billy Graham. He traveled on, as I said, on private planes to the White House. And then at the height of his career, he saw on the news when all the Rwandan refugees had been subjected to that genocide and it was over and they were walking back to their country, and he's looking at the news and he's seeing hundreds of thousands of people that have just suffered inhumane stuff. And he says, I can't believe, God, that you've condemned all these people to hell because they haven't accepted Jesus Christ as their Savior. And he said he heard a voice that said, is that what you think? Is that what you think? He says, he asked God, how can you call yourself loving and suck all these unsaved people into hell? And God responded, is that what you think I'm doing? I'm taking them into my presence. You're the one condemning them into hell. And he said it was just that moment that he got it. And he came to the realization that there was only a man-made hell. And he said, had he known how much it would cost him to begin accepting and adopting that idea that all people are sacred, that all people have worth and dignity, that all people are children of God, saved, in that faith tradition, saved, he said he might have kept the revelation to himself. But he stepped out on his message of universal salvation. He said the whole world is saved. Muslims, Jews, gays, men, women, children, everyone. And his congregation abandoned him. The country's evangelical community crucified him. The church media ran negative articles about him for a year, and they formally labeled him a heretic, stripped him of everything. As he turned 50, he said his congregation had dwindled to a handful. He had no staff, was deeply in debt to church building mortgages and commitments he could not fulfill. He had a wife, but she left him, took the two children and was gone. And his lifelong evangelical community moved on as if he were dead. But he says, always there is lifting up. Always there is lifting up. There is a resurrection energy within us. It stirs us. It stirs us. And we can try to tap it down. We can try to ignore it, but it will continue to try to awaken us. He began a ministry of love and inclusion, starting with himself. So this is him retreating into the tomb experience of deep transformation. He said he had to go inward. He had to comfort himself, right? In those times of resurrection, it's not always a joy-filled path. I'm trying to ask God, or try to make my life transformations joyful now. I don't need any cosmic 2x4s in the head anymore, to wake me up. I'm going to try to stay awake to what God is presenting for my life, and I would invite you all to do the same. But he said he had to comfort himself. He had to honor his own questions. He had to treat himself with respect when he had condemned so many others and was now being condemned by so many. He had to reconcile deeply held beliefs. That really happens in the tomb experience, where I thought my life was this, and now it's dissolved into nothing, and it's going to come out, and I'm not the same person I used to be. I can't be that person anymore. That's that transformation that takes place. The tomb isn't something we should be afraid of. It's almost, I have in my meditation about the butterfly and the chrysalis, where the what do you call it? What's the worm? The caterpillar. Caterpillar dissolves into goo. There's no formal structure to it anymore in that shell, and then it begins to build a new self. Carlton says in his lectures, I am Bishop Carlton Pearson with nothing. My ministry, my money, my marriage, my mind, my beliefs, all were gone, but there is lifting up, and I was able to begin again, able to have a new life. In the tomb of my experience, I was able to bridge the consciousness of love and acceptance, and I found my destiny. And he lived that. He had a little podcast that was online. He went and started the Unitarian Universalist Church, and that grew. And then he retired from that. He had a little experience with an illness, and so he started doing a podcast. And then he went back to the Unitarian Church in Tulsa, and they welcomed him a second time with open arms. And I think he stayed there until he passed. They made a movie about him and all this stuff. Next slide. In any tomb experience in your life, all the negativity is burned up and the purified you comes forth. But you're not the same. I mean, you can declare for yourself, I'm not who I used to be. I'm not that person anymore. I'm changed, I'm purified, I'm cleansed, I'm more. I'm more my real self. I'm more my most authentic self. I may be delicate, I may be stepping gingerly, but this is the new me. This is the new me. The fire of God never ceases, its life-giving, purifying glow. And in that tomb where all negativity is burned up, immaturity is transformed to wisdom, irresponsibility to respect. These are just some of the things that happen when you're closed away with God. Chaos becomes order, willfulness turns to understanding, anger to mercy, resentment to forgiveness, lack to plenty. You come out of a bankruptcy, and you're closed away, and you get the personal agenda that you had versus God's agenda for you, God's agenda, and you merge that into one of substance and abundance and respect for yourself and your possessions and how you flow energy in the world, and you come out and you're not the same person. You have an opportunity to not be the same person, right? Even Carlton Pearson's bigotry and hatred was absorbed into inclusivity, right? In the tomb, the clear, unclouded mind of the Christ, I think that's another slide, Jesse. In the tomb, the clear, unclouded mind of the Christ dominates your being, and you realize a new inspiration is flowing steadily into you and expanding you in every way. The Easter story is so powerful about resurrecting into your highest and greatest potential, resurrecting into more and more of the God self in you. Old mistaken beliefs are dissolved away and your life is being remade. In the tomb, God's Spirit gives you the courage and the strength you need to rise up, to press forward. It's just this amalgamation of energy and oneness and purification and fire and all of that. And everything is dissolved and then it's ramped up. So you burst out of that tomb, you come forth. As we walk through the doorways to God consciousness, remember there it's release, it's awakening, stirring within you, it's surrendering to God, and now we are assimilating and becoming one with the divine idea and the divine expression of who we are in the truth of God. By prayerfully affirming, I give up so I can rise up. I awaken the life force within me. I release all that's not the highest expression of God. And now I am one with. Those are the first 4 doorways of this Easter experience. And when you affirm those, you make of your heart a holy shrine that burns away fear and doubt and worry. You know that nothing can defeat God or stand in the way of your good. The tomb is where the Christ in you takes control of the lower self, the human self, not a bad self, just not a vibrational raising up into the universal Christ. And when the Christ self of you takes charge, a new order of things is inaugurated. Your resurrection begins. You're assimilating a new being. I want to invite you to keep going with our steps to doorways to God consciousness. The resurrection work right now is going on in you. Right now, you are rising to new, higher places in consciousness. Your faith is being strengthened. Spirit is being lifted up in you. Right now, you're being resurrected into new life, into more than you've ever been before. So let's affirm this let's put our hands on our hearts and think about what you've declared for your life in this Easter series. Take a moment to get centered in that, and let's affirm together. I give up so I can rise up. I awaken the life force within me. I release all that is not the highest expression of God. And I am one with, and you say whatever it is your spiritual attribute. All right, God bless you. Let's take that into a time of prayer and seal it in our beings, in our hearts, in our consciousness. Our daily word today was so wonderful, talking about timelessness in the tomb. There's very much all human senses are suspended, and you are just one with the Father, Mother, God. So take a deep breath in and let your attention drop about 18 inches from your forehead down into your heart. And release any limitation you've had on yourself. Let yourself be tucked away with God, the Lord of your being. And as we think about rising up into something new, I invite you to envision that process of the caterpillar to the butterfly. See yourself letting go of any self-imposed boundaries or limitations. And embrace the vast sky of infinite possibilities. Let go of anything that no longer serves you or serves the life that you want to live. And with each flutter of wings, see yourself rising up into all that God has called you to be. You are magnificent. Your potential is boundless. And so breathe with ease and allow the beauty of transformation to take place in you. Let Spirit's energy flow into every little nook and cranny of your body and your health every nook and cranny of your circumstances of your life. And see it dissolving anything negative and infusing you with love. Feel the freedom of releasing any doubts and fears. See yourself moving forward into limitless power and good. Trust in the strength that's already within you. Hear Spirit say, "Behold, I have loved you with an everlasting love." Philippians reminds us, "I can do all things through the one who strengthens me." Let that strength move in and through you now. Let go and see yourself soaring with the winds of change, floating easily, gracefully into the new you. I soar beyond every obstacle with confidence and grace. This is the word that we'll work with. I soar beyond every obstacle with confidence and grace. Let's affirm it. I soar beyond every obstacle with confidence and grace. Now feel after that, feel that in yourself, that confidence, that grace flowing. I can do all things through the one who strengthens me. The same word is true for those that we love, our families, our friends, our ministry, all the names in our prayer chest, each one who has touched this ministry in any way. We see this same power of love infusing every part of their lives, blessing them, healing them, encouraging them. We affirm for our loved ones, you can do all things through the one who strengthens you. You can do all things through the one who strengthens you. Together, you can do all things through the one who strengthens you. And see them being strengthened. See them standing a little taller, a little straighter. See a smile come across their face and their eyes flash with a sense of knowing encouragement. Your words have power. So we again open ourselves to walk through those doorways to greater consciousness of spirit, the Christ spirit within. I give up so I can rise up. I am one with God. And for this time of communion and prayer, we give thanks now. And as Jesus, we say, Father, I thank you that you hear me and that you hear me always. And so it is. Together we all say, Amen.